Hi, welcome to That's Ready Mysterious, the show where every bite-sized mystery is rooted in reality. I'm your host, Kelly with an I, leading you through a maze of short stories that are filled with perplexing true mysteries. From missing people to unsolved crimes to eerie coincidences, each episode invites you to step into the unknown and question the ordinary. These tales aren't from fiction, they're stories history hasn't solved. Whether you seek suspense, love curious facts, or are just drawn to stories that linger in your mind, That's Ready Mysterious is your weekly passport into the truly strange, baffling, and unforgettable. Tune in and let the mysteries begin. Transcripts and references for all episodes can be found at that'sreadymysterious.wordpress.com. No apostrophe and no exclamation point. Today's tale is about Jeanne Calment. Lucinda Smythe from Prospect magazine wrote, "In her lifetime, she witnessed the invention of the light bulb, the telephone, the automobile, the television, the computer, the assassination of Franz Ferdinand, and 3 American presidents. Both world wars, both Boer Wars, the Jazz Age, Hiroshima, birth control, the United States Black Civil Rights Movement, and the rise of the Internet." How old was Calment when she died? Jean-Louise Calment was born at 7 a.m. on February 21, 1875 in Arles-Provence-Côte d'Azur, France. She died at the age of 122 years and 164 days old in 1997. Or did she? Jeanne smoked, ate excessively, drank, and ate a lot of red meat and sugar. She never ate breakfast except for a cup of coffee, sometimes with biscuits. How did she live such a long life? Jeanne claimed to have sold Vincent van Gogh paint supplies when she was a child. Calment claimed that Van Gogh had moved into the Yellow House in Arles, France, where she was from. This was late in his career. Jeanne says that she met him when she was 13. He had come into her family's fabric shop to buy canvases. Calment didn't have many nice things to say about Van Gogh. She called him ugly as sin and said he had a vile temper and smelled of booze. The meeting between the two was recreated for the movie Vincent et Moi, which was about his life and came out in 1990. Jeanne actually played herself in the movie and forgave him for his bad manners at 114 years old. This made her the oldest actress. Later discoveries about Van Gogh revealed that he had been living with mental illness when he lived in the Yellow House. In 1896, Jeanne married Ferdinand Calment. He was a wealthy store owner, so Jeanne never had to work. On January 19, 1898, Jeanne had her daughter Yvonne, who later died on her 36th birthday in 1934. Ferdinand died in 1942 after eating a dessert made with spoiled cherries. Jeanne also outlived her grandson, Frederick, who died on August 13, 1963. A 2019 paper on ResearchGate, a social networking site for scientists, suggested that maybe Calment didn't live so long. The paper, which was published by Nikolai Zak from the Moscow Center for Continuous Mathematical Education, claims that Calment actually died at the age of 59 in the year 1934. He says that Jeanne's daughter Yvonne took on her identity to avoid an inheritance tax. Yvonne, now going by Jeanne, then died in 1997 at the age of 99. Zach reached this conclusion based on documentary evidence of Jeanne's life and by closely watching an interview that she gave. His evidence is circumstantial. He refers to photographs of the two women and says they look similar. He also says that a passport issued to Jeanne in the 1930s had a different eye color and height than was recorded later in her life. In an interview, Jeanne told a story about a maid who used to take her to school, but the maid she referred to actually took Yvonne to school and was 10 years younger than Jeanne. There are small inconsistencies in the other stories she told as well. Jeanne had all of the family's archival materials destroyed. In 2007, a French book on the insurance industry, Insurance and Its Secrets, said that the insurance company paying Jeanne an annuity thought she was actually Yvonne. By this time, Jeanne was thought of as a national hero, so the evidence was suppressed. According to official records, Yvonne died in 1934 of pneumonia. She left behind a son, Frederick, and a husband, Joseph Charles Frederick Below. After Yvonne's death, Jeanne started living with the Belows. Joseph never remarried, even though he was only 42 when his wife died. Zach said that this is because Yvonne didn't die. Yvonne's death certificate was signed by a woman sans profession, not by a doctor or coroner. Is it possible that Jeanne and Yvonne got something over on her? The investigation, published in 2019, started because Valery Novosovolov, assistant professor of the Department of Gerontology and Geriatrics of RUDN University, began looking into it. People knew him due to his investigations of famous Russian deaths. He said in an interview that he started to wonder about Jeanne when he noticed her age was so far from the normal statistical models of centenarians and supercentenarians that have been published. He also claims that Jeanne's abilities and skin condition in photos didn't match what he thought a 122-year-old should have. He said, "As a doctor, I always had doubts about her age. The state of her muscle system was different from that of her contemporaries. She could sit up without any support. She had no signs of dementia." In the 1990s, Jean-Marie Robin, a gerontologist who helped to verify Calment's age, told Le Parisien that the evidence of her longevity wasn't very strong, saying, "All of this is incredibly shaky and rests on nothing." He pointed out that Calment was able to answer questions that only she would have known the answers to, like the name of her math teacher. He said that Yvonne shouldn't have known that. He also says that if Jeanne's longevity were a hoax, the whole town of Arles would have had to have been in on the conspiracy. People would have recognized Yvonne and known she was not Jeanne. He said, "Can you imagine how many people would have lied? Overnight, Ferdinand Calment, Jeanne's husband, would have passed his daughter off for his wife, and everyone would have kept silent. It is staggering." Zach, however, claims that Jeanne spent a lot of time in the 1930s outside of Arles due to the disruptions in the 1930s and 40s in Europe. Therefore, this would have been a great time to change her identity. If Yvonne did take Jeanne's identity, it would not be the first time that happened. In 1814, the Calgary Herald reported on the death of a Quebec man, Pierre Joubert, who died at 113 years old. That would have made him the oldest man, and his age was verified by the government. However, it turned out that Pierre's son had the same name, and the pair's records were conflated upon his death. There have also been other cases in South America where the names of parents and children were confused. At the age of 100, Jeanne fell and broke her ankle, but later learned to walk again. Throughout her long life, she set a number of records. At age 111, Jeanne became the oldest living person in France. At age 114, she became the oldest actress to ever appear in a film. At the age of 120, Jeanne became the first person to ever be verified to exceed the age of 120. The next year, she released a rap album in both French and English, Mistress of Time. At the age of 122, she became the oldest person ever. If Jeanne was not the oldest person, that title would be given to American Sarah Nouse from Pennsylvania, who died at the age of 119 years and 97 days in 1999. The only way to know for sure whether or not Jeanne lived to the age of 122 would be to exhume the bodies of both Jeanne and Yvonne and do DNA tests. Jeanne became famous when she broke the oldest living person record at the age of 111. In an interview done at the time, she said that she had only moved into a nursing home the year before. She had been living on her own until the age of 110, but moved into a nursing home after a small fire was set in her home. When she was 111 years old, in April of 1986, Jeanne was hospitalized due to heart failure and was given digoxin. She walked without aid until she fell and broke her hip just before her 115th birthday. She used a wheelchair for the rest of her life. When Jeanne died at the age of 122, she was just over 1.37 meters or 4 feet 6 inches tall and weighed 40 kilograms or 88 pounds. She was almost fully blind, but in relatively good health. During her time in the nursing home, Calment participated in several supercentenarian studies. The doctors said that she moved faster, had better mental capabilities, and was pretty much overall healthier than many people decades younger than her. Every day in old age, Calment woke up at 6:45 a.m. and started her day with prayer. Then she sat in an armchair and did gymnastics while wearing headphones. This included arm and leg exercises as well as finger flexing. Then Calment would bathe without a caretaker's help and would cover her body in olive oil. She said that she put olive oil on her skin every day of her life and then used just a puff of powder. She said she couldn't wear mascara because she cried too frequently when she laughed. For lunch, Calment liked to have rich foods like braised beef and duck. She drank port wine and smoked cigarettes daily. Until the age of 119, she ate a little under a kilogram, or about 2 pounds of chocolate a week. When possible, she slathered her meals in olive oil, saying that's what made her so healthy. Calment continued to drink cheap wine and eat sweets until her death. How was it possible for someone to live such a long life? Calment grew up wealthy, which afforded her some privileges that weren't common for girls at her time. She stayed in school until she was 16, then took private classes in cuisine, art, and dance. She never worked and had help at home. She never even had to cook for herself and never had to shop for herself. She also didn't start smoking until after she got married and supposedly didn't like it much at first. She didn't smoke for most of her life and only really picked it up when she moved into the nursing home, but quit at the age of 117. She spent most of her life free to travel and go to social events. Calment also came from a family that lived long lives. Her mother lived to be 86 and her father lived to be 92. Her brother lived to the age of 97. It's still very impressive that Jeanne lived such a long life, and she attributed it to her diet and active lifestyle. Some think it was due to her love of olive oil and cheap red wine. Did Jeanne Calment really live to be over 122 years old, or did Yvonne steal her identity in the 1930s? If Jeanne really lived so long, how was that possible? What do you think? Thank you for joining me on our adventure through today's mystery. The stories that That's Ready Mysterious covers are often stranger than fiction. If you enjoyed today's tale, subscribe to make sure you never miss a story that challenges the ordinary and reveals the mysterious. Until next time, keep questioning and remember the world is full of mysteries yet to be explored.